It's easy to lose track of the days these days. It happened to me last week. We've been preparing for Advent around here for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, it arrives on the heels of turkey and cranberry sauce and dressing. So when Matthew and I were walking around the neighborhood last week, it kind of hit me like a flash. Oh my gosh, it's Advent and I'm preaching. Cool, Matthew said supportively. Is it a fun reading? Now, I had looked ahead enough to know that I could affirmatively respond, no, it is not at all a fun reading. Our gospel is not what a person might consider fun. Now, considering your definition of fun, if you've been following along in evening prayer, we've got to look at some pretty fun passages about Zacchaeus, about the healing of the 10 lepers, about what the kingdom of God looks like. I think those are kind of fun. I approach them at least with enthusiasm and interest. But today's reading from Mark, not so much. The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. It is the first Sunday of Advent. And on the first Sunday of Advent, the beginning of our church year, we always hear this type of imagery, scenes during which Jesus talks about that final appearance that is on the horizon. That appearance when Jesus will come and bring all of time and space and history to a close. So keep in mind when Mark is writing here, this is the earliest gospel. Those first century Christians, as we've heard about, those first century Christians thought that Jesus' return was going to be literally at any moment. Now, another thing that's informing our reading today is that Mark is writing around the last third of the first century. And that is the time when Jerusalem was invaded and the temple was destroyed. The temple, it was the center of spiritual and political life, and it had been toppled. So the central message that the hearers would have heard in Mark's gospel would be to keep on keeping on. Keep the faith. Hashtag stay strong. We know this as apocalyptic literature. But one scholar describes it a different way that's more helpful for me, at least. Another scholar calls this crisis literature. Crisis literature. Isn't that amazing? That what was written 2,000 years ago was written to a people experiencing a crisis. We know a little something about that, don't we? We know something about what it means to live with constant worry. We know a little bit about fear and disruption. And we know what it's like to look up and wonder if the powers of heaven are shaking us by the shoulders. So what's the good word for today? The reading may not make us want to kick up our heels, but it does have something to teach us about our Christian journey, especially the times during which we are navigating not just one, but several crises. Social unrest, squabbling over power and leadership, and a pandemic that is even today climbing to epic proportions. Aren't we awake enough? Aren't we alert enough? Come on. My meditation teacher says that just because your eyes are open doesn't mean that you're awake. Most of you know that my doctoral thesis explores the practice of mindfulness meditation. What is mindfulness meditation? Well, people use the words mindfulness and meditation a whole lot in 21st century American culture. But that term mindfulness comes from the Pali language word sati, and it means to remember, to recollect, or to bear in mind. Mindfulness is valued within all of the main branches of Buddhism. And there are several definitions of mindfulness that I believe parallel what Jesus is getting at today. Mindfulness is described as an alert participation in the ongoing process of living. Mindfulness is a way of being in which we are awake to, accepting of, and curious about what is happening within us and around us. So that's mindfulness. And then a way of cultivating mindfulness is meditation. Again, lots of definitions of what that word means, but I like what the Buddhist scholar Thich Nhat Hanh says. He says that to practice meditation is to look deeply. It's to look deeply in order to see the essence of things. And I think Jesus would be on board. Mindfulness meditation then is the practice. It's a discipline that allows us to observe how we are acting, how we are thinking, and how we are relating and reacting to the world and to the people around us. Even today, we live in a fast-paced world. And that fast-paced world does not often create space for such self-reflection. And one hardly has to look beyond our own sidewalks to see people multitasking with multiple digital devices, all in an effort to stay ahead. David Brooks, the writer David Brooks, says that we live in a culture that teaches us to promote and advertise ourselves and to master the skills required for success, but that gives little encouragement to humility, sympathy, and honest self-confrontation. Honest self-confrontation. Maybe a little bit scary. But the message of Advent invites us into this space of self-confrontation. In this season, Jesus holds a mirror up to our face and he asks, "Do you see what I see? Or are you missing what I see?" Mark's Jesus is not so much asking us to be ready for the actual end of time when we're hustling and bustling at the last minute to put the house back together after the great big party. No, I think Jesus is interested in our daily rhythms and practices of self-care, care for planet, and care for each other. I don't think he's so much worried about what we might say and do at the end of time. Instead, he's helping us to be awake to what is happening in the meantime. Be alert. Keep watch. Watch out. Watch out for all that regular stuff that is pulling us out of God's orbit. Watch out for destructive patterns. Watch out for how you are treating other people. Be attentive to the comments that you make and how they land on other people. Be alert to the ways that you have power. and the ways that you use it. Watch out for the ways that we can get lulled into taking the easy way out. Stay awake to whatever it is that makes you feel connected to the heartbeat of Jesus. It is Advent. It is Advent. Love is being born, even as we speak. Love is opening our eyes. Just because your eyes are open doesn't mean you're awake. But the Christ comes to open our eyes. Love is calling us to look. Love is calling us to watch. Love is calling us to listen. Now is the season to see what Jesus sees, to be awake, to be mindful, to explore what is going on within you and around you. And I wonder what you will notice. I wonder what will be revealed. I wonder what you will discover. And I wonder how God will open your ears and your eyes and your hearts. I guess we'll just have to pay attention and wait and see.